Good Wednesday morning, everyone. It is time for another edition of Ask Andrew Live, and now you have me, just me out here. It is very sunny, as you can see. It actually feels really good outside too, so I'm completely fine with getting out of that cave of a studio and being out here and enjoying some of the sunshine. It also feels a lot better. I know it's been very humid. We've had a boundary that has just continued to impact our area over the past several days, bringing in the humidity, bringing in constant rain chances, also bringing in a lot of cloud cover. But now we are finally seeing a break in that pattern. Temperatures are going to continue to stay seasonable with us, but we do have this area of high pressure that is continuing to influence us, and it will pretty much drive our weather here for the next 48 hours. We're continuing to see those northerly winds as that area of high pressure is off to our west, keeping in sunny skies. But again, dew point temperatures are feeling a lot nicer for us here. We have seen dew point temperatures now in the mid 60s so far. And yeah, when we're talking about dew points, when you have those dew point temperatures in the 60s, it's still rather humid. So yeah, you can notice it, but it's definitely not as bad as it has been over the past couple of days. With those northerly winds, it's going to continue to keep us pretty comfortable here with those dew point temperatures, but we're still kind of fighting some of that corn sweat. We're not done with that season by any means, but still definitely feeling a little bit better. Don't get used to it though, because we're going to see some big changes once again once we get to the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, though, future tracks showing some very nice, comfortable, calm skies. Temperatures are going to be around 83 degrees for this afternoon. Again, plenty of sunshine. It'll be a great evening to get out there. Tonight will be even cooler. Temperatures in the low 60s. We'll have patchy fog potential by tomorrow morning. And we are going to continue to see some quiet conditions into tonight and tomorrow. Pretty much a copy and paste day for tomorrow, as well as continue to see plenty of sunshine. Highs in the low to mid 80s. And again, we're not really going to see much of an influence of a heat index for today, although that's something that we're definitely going to be talking about here into the end of the week and into the upcoming weekend. Here's a look at those dew point temperatures and how we're expected to trend here over the next couple of days. So again, today and tomorrow, very similar when it comes to the humidity levels, but by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it is going to get really ramped up. We're going to see those dew point temperatures get to the mid 70s. That's going to feel pretty tropical when it comes to the air mass that's going to push in, and combine it with temperatures at 90 degrees for the weekend. It is going to be a bit miserable. Hopefully you guys have some ways to cool down, or at least a pool to enjoy, because I'm sure those are going to be busy for this weekend. The good news is if you do have any outdoor plans, we're not going to track in any chances of rain. We'll hold those off through the weekend, but still it is going to be not the best outside. You're going to have to keep an eye out on yourself, your pets, your friends, family, neighbors, practice those precautions. I am anticipating that we are going to see possibly some heat advisories issued for the weekend, because here's a look at those heat index values. Once we get to Friday, there's going to be a couple of us that get really close to that territory of heat advisory criteria, which is just around 100 degrees for those heat indexes. And we're going to see potentially a couple of our hometowns get really close to that 100-degree mark, especially for areas south of I-80. The rest of us are going to feel like the 90s for Friday afternoon. But then all of us are going to have to be on guard for those triple-digit heat index values as we get into Saturday and Sunday. Could have widespread heat indices around 100 to 105 for Saturday and Sunday. So that's what you can expect for the upcoming weekend. But again, we just have to get through the weekend. Once we do get through this weekend, that's when we're going to start to see temperatures calm down for us. So Monday is still expected to stay pretty warm, but we'll start to see some changes with that pattern, bringing in some more rain chances. Obviously, with a drop in temperatures like that and with a moist environment, we do see a lot of storm energy with those conditions. So we'll have to watch closely with any of those storm chances. And if we get any severe weather, it's still way too far away to be able to really call anything for that. But it's still definitely something that we'll keep a close eye out on here as we head through the next several days. Now, going into the 14-day tracker, we are going to continue to see a really nice lineup. Again, once we get through the weekend and we see those temperatures in the 90s, again, feeling like 100 degrees, we'll get a really nice lineup here after we get to that second week. So it is going to be a really, really, really good second week for us as we get into the afternoon, or once we get into that second week of the 14-day tracker. So again, going to be a big treat for us as we get into next week. Okay, so obviously I'm going to be paying attention to our Facebook page here. Obviously we are streaming on both Facebook and our WQ88 Plus app. I will say I am paying attention to this Facebook page, and that's where we're going to take your questions. You can ask me anything about the weather. We're going to dive into here a couple more things, but you can also send your questions. You can text actually to 309-304-0888. Our digital team is going to be watching for those questions we sent in. They'll make sure that they get to me too. So again, anything weather-wise, you can ask me. It can even be about winter. It doesn't matter. But still, we're going to take a close look at rain chances that we saw this past weekend. We're going to take a look at flooding, and we're also going to take a look at the tropics, because starting to see a little more activity ramping up there, and we could potentially see our first hurricane of the Atlantic season here in the next couple of days. So first things first, we're going to start with the tropics actually. So taking a look at the tropics, we're going to continue to see a couple of waves of energy here, but right now the current storm that is named as well off in the Atlantic, and we still see a couple of disturbances along the coast of the United States and Mexico. Right now those aren't as certain to turn into storms, but rather they are just some pretty good waves of energy. So when it comes to our current named storm, it is in just off the coast of Africa right now. It is Tropical Storm Erin. Right now, peak winds are at 45 miles per hour. As we get into the next couple of days, that track, it does look like it's going to go directly west. So we do have a potential that the United States is going to get impacted by this storm. But right now, it is forecasted to reach Hurricane 1 or Category 1 status storm by Friday morning, and it could ramp up into Category 2 status by Saturday. And we're going to continue to keep a close eye out on it. Right now, the extended forecast that goes out to Monday still keeps it away from the United States, but we could definitely see that storm get pretty close to the nation. So again, once we do see this ramp up in hurricane season and we start to see quite a bit of activity, that's where our forecast here might get a little more difficult, because I don't think people realize that what's going on in the tropics can really influence what's happening closer to home. So we'll have to keep a close eye out on it. It can kind of stall some of our weather systems here closer to home, whether good or bad, keep us in a nicer pattern, could bring in some more heat and humidity. But regardless, though, it is going to be nice to at least stay pretty dry here over the next couple of days, because I know the past weekend that we did see quite a bit of heavy rain, but here's a look at where we only see our only flooding going on in our tributary rivers. It's the Wapsie, which is a very typical river to stay overwhelmed. And with some of that rain over the weekend, we are seeing those river levels elevated. It's still considered in a flood stage, a minor flood stage, sitting at 11.14 feet this morning. Good news is it is expected to drop pretty rapidly as we continue to see these dry skies. And in fact, it should get out of even action stage by the time we get to this weekend. So good news there, and it'll continue to stay low, and we right now don't really see any rain chances, at least through the weekend. We won't return those chances until early next week. So that, again, that's some good news there for the Wapsie itself, but that's really the only place that we have been seeing some flooding. Here's a look at the rainfall amounts from Sunday morning. I know Sunday morning we had a lot of rain. We saw this, we were tracking it well into the weekend, just before the weekend, that we knew that we were going to get some pretty heavy rainfall. However, it was a little bit of a difficult forecast for sure, because we had this boundary that was just so strong and stable, but it also was kind of going back and forth, moving east to west. And with that orientation, it moved that heavier rain access to the Iowa side of the Mississippi River, and we saw much lower rainfall amounts on the Illinois side, especially here in the Metro Quad Cities. I want to point out that Davenport picked up 3.18 inches of rain. I'm assuming that's a report coming from the airport, but Moline saw less than half of an inch. So that just goes to show how different, how isolated these heavy downpours can really get. Muscatine got nearly, I was seeing some reports getting pretty close to 5 inches of rainfall in the Muscatine area as well. So it is nice to at least take a break from all this rain. I know that's something that we have been seeing here as of late. A lot of flooding across the entire United States. Seems like we're always talking about some new town that has been seeing some pretty flooded areas. Okay, let's get to, again, with Sunday morning, especially, we heard a lot of loud thunder. I was going to say loud lightning, which I guess is the same thing. We saw a lot, or we heard a lot of loud strikes outside, and that also continued into early this week. When we were doing Good Morning Quad Cities, it was a constant, super loud rolls of thunder for us, and we had a question actually about how can we get these really loud booms when we're not really seeing much in terms of severe weather? I know that we weren't seeing too much severe weather across the area with some of those storms earlier this week, but now we did definitely hear it. I'm sure a lot of us woke up to it. So when we're talking about thunderstorms, heat and humidity kind of brings in the fuel to it. But heat and humidity can also ramp up the noise when it comes to how loud the thunder can get. So when we're talking about roaring thunder, there's a lot of heat in the air, and the hotter it is, the more humid it is. That's when you are going to start to hear those really loud rolls of thunder. It's literally an actual explosion, so no wonder that it is very loud. Air molecules are so energized that they quite literally explode, and lightning heats the air around it to roughly 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. So lightning, it's not something you want to mess with. And when you are talking about the really, really loud strikes that we get, that's usually what we call cloud to ground lightning. So it actually makes contact with the ground and you hear that explosion a little bit more. The sound moves through the air and bounces off the ground, windows, etc. So again, once you get that cloud to ground connection, that's when we start to hear the lightning or hear the thunder a lot more. And we saw a lot of cloud to ground lightning for sure earlier this week. When you get the cloud to cloud lightning, that's when it's kind of that little rumble of thunder that you don't hear as much. So there's just some interesting information for you. It looks like we have quite a few questions that are already coming in on our Facebook, so I'm going to start diving into some of those. Be sure to continue to give us your questions as we head through this morning. Billy from Clinton asks, good morning. Last night I read Mr. Stutzky's write-up and saw the video for a potential for a second severe weather season. That leads me to this question for you. How will El Nino or La Nina play a role in this? Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I actually haven't taken a look, but I can quickly take a look at where our where the ENSO pattern is. That's the El Nino Southern Oscillation Pattern. It's a teleconnection, which means it is a huge weather system. And the ENSO is the one that influences us here in the United States the most. And when it does come to El Nino, La Nina, it can influence our severe weather season, but the bigger influence definitely comes to play during the winter time. But I am going to take a look at where we are when it comes to our Nino forecast, in which the Climate Prediction Center is the one that monitors those kinds of patterns. And they do issue watches or warnings when it comes to if we're seeing a change in El Nino or La Nina. Okay, so let's go El Nino forecast. This is a very good question. And I haven't looked at it in a really long time. I know that we were in a neutral. So we're still in a neutral phase right now. So that's why we haven't been talking about it much. But let's take a look at what's going on as we head into the fall and the winter. Okay, actually, it looks like we could see a La Nina this winter, but it's not a very strong signal. In fact, we could stay pretty neutral going into the winter months. And again, when we're talking about El Nino, La Nina, the La Nina generally will bring us in more cooler conditions, and El Nino usually brings in warmer, more mild conditions for the Midwest especially. So right now with neutral, it's pretty much all at play. It could go either way as we head into the winter season. But also when we're talking about El Nino and La Nina and the Atlantic hurricane season, that can also put a factor into hurricane development. Usually La Nina can ramp up some of these storms, but the National Hurricane Center in NOAA did release their hurricane forecast earlier or just a couple months ago, and it's definitely looking a bit more active. Now, we have had some named storms. We're on storm name E, so we've had A, B, C, D already, but none of them turned into a hurricane. All of them were just tropical storm status before dissipating. But again, with the tropical storm Erin right now, that could definitely be the first hurricane that we see, and we could see quite a few major hurricanes. But that's a really good question. Again, right now we're in neutral phase, so we're not really seeing any many impacts here in the next couple of months when it comes to the Enzo. Frank and Moline asks, how are drought conditions evolving in Iowa and Illinois, and are we leaning drier into late summer or getting relief? I know that's definitely been something that a lot of us have been hoping for, is to maybe get a break from all this rain. We've had a lot of saturation here during the summer months. Again, not only were we pumping in moisture constantly from the Gulf and from the southern U.S., we also were seeing very, very high levels of moisture with our corn sweat. And they were just working together, not in our favor, and it just really created this moist environment. I can pull up the drought monitor, the current drought monitor for you right now. Again, that's probably the reason why we haven't really been talking about drought conditions, is just because we haven't really seen many drought conditions across the area here for a while. And usually once we trend into August and September, we actually do start to see our drought stage kind of start to develop a little bit more. But so far we have been keeping those skies fairly quiet. Let's see here. Okay, so here is that current drought tracker. Sorry, we're out in the elements, so I am in the, I'm out here with the bugs as well. But you can see we have no drought across the area. A little abnormally dry near Peoria, as well as northeastern Illinois near Chicago. But zooming out, almost all of Iowa, almost all, this is really impressive, of Iowa is not even considered abnormally dry. The only section is just south of Omaha. And that is in that southeastern or southwestern part of the state where you see that yellow creeping in across the border. Again, very impressive. So we are not worried about drought conditions right now. Well, and especially with how saturated our ground is, we're not going to be worried about it. Even if we do see a pretty dry stretch of weather here over the next couple of weeks, it would take several weeks of dry conditions to be able to see those droughts conditions begin to really develop. But again, we're still in summer. We still have a lot of heat. We still see a lot of high evaporation levels. So that's something we'll keep a close eye out on, but again, hasn't really been much of a issue here for us. All right, Jane and Clinton asks, when's our next real chance for rain in the Quad Cities? I think we're going to stay dry through the weekend. It won't be until early next week that we'll see some shower and thunderstorm chances. So again, let's go to the 8-day so we can show you what that 8-day forecast is, so you can see when we are going to creep in those shower and thunderstorm chances. But again, doesn't look like it's going to be too much as of right now. It really is going to depend on the timing of the system, because that's something that we're going to be watching very closely. As we get into this weekend, we see lots of heat and humidity, and we're also going to see temperatures in the 90s. What's going to shut that down is finally going to be a system that will bring in some shower and thunderstorm chances into early next week. You can see we stay fairly warm through Monday. We'll still see highs near 90 degrees, but by Monday evening going into Tuesday, it looks like we're going to bring in a cold front. Again, I can see that it will be a cold front because it drops those temperatures, and we see a shift in the winds to come in from the south and then eventually coming in from the north. So that usually comes in along a cold front. And we also know with cold fronts, especially when we have this really hot and humid air ahead of it, that just builds in some storm energy. So it really is going to be a good something to keep an eye out on, that we could maybe get some severe storms out here as we get into early next week as well. And again, it's going to be really warm and humid this weekend. That kind of ramps up the moisture. So we'll be watching closely for those rain chances. But right now, it does look like we're going to stay dry here for the next several days, and then bring in some rain that'll finally cool us down as we get into the middle of the week. Okay, we have Martha asking, why so much extreme heat and humidity this year? Is this something that we can expect each year now? We have been warmer than Florida several days. Yes, we have been warmer than Florida several days. This is something I think, yes, we should get used to it. Definitely this year, it has been a lot more noticeable, I will say. It's been longer stretches of weather that we've just been in the 90s, but I think it's the humidity that is driving us all crazy. Because it's just been the way that our pattern has been set up. We built in a lot of really strong and stable air masses actually south. So whenever we're seeing these dry stretches of weather, but also seeing warmth, usually that's being influenced by an area of high pressure south of the United States, kind of in the southeastern region near Texas. And that pushes a lot of heat and humidity into the area. When we see much more comfortable conditions and we're dry, usually that's what we call Canadian high pressure. We didn't see as many Canadian high pressures. We really were driven by the influence of a lot of heat and humidity from the south. Not only that, we saw a really good start to our crop season. The corn absolutely flourished this year. We saw it grow extremely fast. And so that really started to release a lot of that water content in the atmosphere a lot sooner for us. So, you know, we always say the phrase knee high by the 4th of July. It was almost my height by the 4th of July. It was just bursting. So then again, that just continues to release a lot of excess moisture. Again, here in the Midwest, the reason why we are humid without any oceans nearby is because of our corn. So that releases so much water. We're starting to see, or we're past the tassel stage. The tassel stage happens in July. That's when we see most of the moisture being exerted by the crop. Once we get into end of August, beginning of September, and we start to get closer to the mature stage of the corn, that's when we're not going to see as much influence from that moisture here. So again, it is something that we're going to have to get used to. We're going to always have crops growing, at least hopefully here. We're in the corn belt. So soybeans and corn definitely are the two influencers of seeing those humid conditions. It's going to happen every year, that's for sure. But it's definitely been more ramped up this year too. We had one of the most humid months of July on record. We have Tracy stopping in to say good morning. Good morning, Tracy. Alex in East Moline asks, how's the Mississippi River looking right now? High, low, normal, any flood chances the rest of the storm season? Right now, the only area flooded is the Wapsie, which is a pretty typical river to continue to stay flooded. Right now, the Mississippi River is looking pretty good. I haven't seen anything to note that we will see any concerns on the Mississippi River, at least when it comes to those water levels. I'll take a look real quick here at the gauge in Rock Island, because right now we are well below flood stage. Yeah, so flood stage, at least action stage, I should say, on the Mississippi River at Rock Island is 13 feet. We officially get to flood stage at 15 feet. Right now, the river's sitting at 10. So it's not, we are well out of flooding opportunities here for the Mississippi River, at least. And it does continue. It looks like it's going to trend down. So again, it keeps trending down. So that kind of gives us a little more room to work with in case we do see a ramp up in any of the rainfall, because rain at this point in time of the year is the only thing that will really cause the rivers to flood. So hopefully we can get a couple of weeks of some dry weather, because I think we deserve it. 1, 2, we don't need any more rain. Obviously, we were just taking a look at that drought monitor, and there's been absolutely quiet skies for us here. Okay, what did I do? I lost my, okay, here we are. Okay. Krista Davenport asked, do you think we'll see any more smoky skies from wildfires again soon? It's definitely a possibility. But again, it really depends on the strength of systems moving in, if that makes sense. So usually when we have an area of high pressure, like we are seeing today, we have blue skies, we have lots of sunshine. That area of high pressure did drop down from Canada. With that air mass, that's usually why we have been seeing smoky skies with the Canadian wildfire smoke. But the area of high pressure is just not strong enough to drag some of that smoke down to the upper Midwest. So we're not going to be worried about seeing any smoke, at least for the next couple of days. I can't say that it's not going to impact us for the rest of the season, because we definitely could see a pretty strong area of high pressure come in, and that could get some of those, or get back that wildfire smoke into the jet stream at least, and then, you know, move it right over our hometown. So that's still definitely a possibility. Right now, though, I'm not anticipating any impacts from any air quality or smoke for us here over the next several days. We have Seth. Hello, Seth. Asking, how are you doing on a Wednesday morning? I'm doing fairly well. It's my Friday, so it's even happier. He said, new scoreboard coming to Lions Field and Clear Lake next Wednesday. That's exciting. All right, we got a couple more minutes here, a couple more questions. Tim in Bettendorf asks, can you see where a lightning bolt strikes after the fact? Can very severe lightning strikes leave big marks? I actually was just looking at a graphic for this. So let me find it real quick, because Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question. You can, which I honestly have thought about this so much, that lightning strikes can leave marks, but I've never seen one. And how much, just imagine how much lightning you have experienced in your life, and you know that you can tell when a lightning strike gets close to you because it's so unbelievably loud. But I have never seen a mark from a lightning strike, at least from what I think I have. So let's pull up. Hey, I'm sure a lot of us can hear the lawnmowers around us. That is something, if you have any yard work to do it today or tomorrow before that heat and humidity comes in for the weekend, because that just won't be as much fun or comfortable to do some yard work in. So, all right. I gotta see here. Lightning, is this it? It's nice and bright on my laptop. Okay, here we go. Yes. All right, let's get you this graphic, because this is where you can see that we have, whenever we have cloud to ground lightning, you can have these, those marks. So, wow, this is such tiny writing. Okay, the Lichtenberg figures, branching patterns that resemble trees scorched into the ground. Intense heat travels along the surface of the ground. Fulgurites, extreme heat can melt sandy soil, creating glassy-like structures. Think of it like a fossil. And then ground composition, the lightning can change the chemistry of the soil. I actually did not know that. I just learned something. Again, this graphic came from our very own Andrew Stutsky. Obviously, he is a wizard when it comes to creating graphics. But yeah, you can definitely see some impacts to the ground from lightning. But again, I really do think it's crazy that I've just never seen it. Maybe I just haven't even been paying attention enough. All right, Michael Emolian asked, did you see the Perseid meteor shower, and when can I see it today? Yes, the Perseid meteor shower is still going on, happens every year in the middle of August. I'd say tonight is gonna be a great viewing, because we're gonna have clear skies. It's gonna be actually comfortable tonight. Those lows are gonna be in the low 60s, and then we're going to continue to see a lot of pretty decent conditions tonight. Again, clear skies, and I think the best time to view those meteors is just after the sun goes down and when you start to see those darker skies. But I promise, if you get yourself somewhere that is really dark, regardless, you will see at least a couple meteors a few times an hour. So it is a really cool viewing experience. I highly recommend if you can get out there tonight to see it. All right, last question here before we let you go. We have Andrea in Davenport asked, when will we start seeing those first signs of fall weather? Isn't that the golden question? Usually by the time we get to September, we kind of start to see those effects of, you know, the drier air starting to come in. We start to see those cooler mornings starting to take shape as well. So usually during the month of September, and September 1st is meteorological fall. So that's usually when we start to see those temperature trends begin to go downward a lot more. So we'll start to see those signs of fall a little bit more in September. If you're talking about the leaves changing, usually we see that at the end of September going into the beginning of October. Usually peak coloring across our area is within that second or third week of October as well. I'm excited for fall, especially after the heat that we have been experiencing. It's going to be so nice to finally get that in. Again, thank you. So we got a couple more minutes, but I'm going to let you guys get out of here early, and thank you for joining me. And thanks for asking your questions. Of course, you can join us every Wednesday right here on Facebook, as well as our News 8 streaming app. And you'll have meteorologist Andrew Stutsky back with you. Wait, no, you won't. I'll be back here with you next week, possibly with Peter. So we'll see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 8 Plus app everywhere you stream.